going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NFL strategy show presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. We're back again, not going anywhere. This is what they ask for. This is what you ask for. This is what you get. Tuesday NFL content coming up for a wild week of games for Super Wild Card Weekend. 6 games, 2 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, 1 on Monday. I'm Dave Loughran at Loughy _D, LOUGHY_D for those of you podcast listeners out there, along with Jordan Vanek at Jordan Vanek DFS and Ben Rasa at Jazz Raz DFS, double Z, single Z over there on the Twitters. Ben, I was going to have us break down Saturday and Sunday, but Sunday salaries aren't out yet. So we'll save that for tomorrow. We'll talk about Saturday, some interesting games, Cincy, Las Vegas, Buffalo, New England, the third time they'll face each other this week. And we'll do our best to get underway here and start getting into the weeds a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there are massive prize pools out for even this 2-game slate. So it's going to be a lot of different slates, a lot of different things we can talk about. But the one thing we know, at least after a week 18, that, listen, it is what it is, but we didn't know who was playing. It was like a preseason. Now we get the best teams in the league all out. It's a different mentality. And that to me is so much more fun and so much more, easier to break down and find your stance, find your leverage than trying to gauge which coach is telling the truth and which coach is lying.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to really gauge that anymore. Nate asked, are you guys doing another best ball show? Yeah. James Brimacombe and I did one yesterday for the underdog best ball, postseason best ball. They have the gauntlet out there, 25 to enter, 200K up top. And then they had the mittens. So yeah, I think we will do one more of those along the way. The postseason best ball is a lot of fun along with DFS. So yeah, I think we will get into that a little bit. James brought some great information to the table and it was great to get some insight because that shit is tough, man. That strategy that goes into postseason best ball is no joke. It's entirely different than anything you're going to do. But anyway, Jordan, how we feeling, man?
Feeling good. I mean, were you guys rooting for the tie for that Raiders-Chargers game?
Hell yeah.
We have a group chat with some buddies of mine, and one of them's a Steelers fan. So we were all sitting there just praying, just hoping we got that tie. But people blaming Brandon Staley for calling that timeout. It was like, there's 3 seconds left on the play clock when he did it. If he wanted to get the ball back, he would have called it when there's 40 seconds. They just gave up a 12-yard run, and I think Pazach looked at it and was like, well, we could kick this field goal and play the Bengals, or we could tie it and play the Chiefs. I'd much rather play the Bengals if I'm the Raiders.
Sure, and that's a good way to look at it, no doubt. I mean, it was weird, though, because they asked Derek Carr after the game if their approach changed after Staley called that timeout, and he's like, oh, yeah, definitely. Now, what does that mean? Hard to say. He also, in that same breath, which people cut out of context, he's like, we wanted to win this game anyway, but yes, I was pulling for a tie. I kept tweeting about it. Like, do you know how great, Ben, an all kneel down overtime would have been for both of them to lock in a postseason spot? It would have been phenomenal.
It would have been good, but I'm glad there wasn't a tie just because the amount of people that actually thought that there was a chance that they were actually just going to take knees the whole game disturbed me. Like, that was not a possibility at all.
No.
It never would have happened. So people actually planning accordingly, like that was a scenario, was very confusing to me.
Yeah, I joked about it.
Of course.
Because I wanted to, because
that would be hilarious. But you can't do that. There are rules in place. You can't just like collude to knock the team out. That's not how it works in any scenario.
No. And would it have been hilarious? Yeah. Would there have been some repercussions? I would imagine so. It ended up being arguably the best game of the season, though. Like, the game was awesome. Justin Herbert converted 5 fourth downs, and they were all like 4th and 10s.
Yeah, no, that last drive, I think it was like a 19-play, 67-yard drive that they scored in as time expired. And that was one of the best games that I saw all year, definitely.
Nick with the super chat. Thanks, Nick. Said, how about them dogs on the NFL? Let's go, boys. Yeah, Ben, I don't know much about college football. I tailed you on that. And I was so tired last night that I passed out at 19-18. And I was like, you know what? I'll wake up. I had a dream too that Alabama ended up winning by 2 scores. So I woke up and checked the scores, and I was pleasantly surprised that Georgia pulled away in that one. It was late. It took a while. It looked real sketchy for the first three quarters, but ended up being all right.
I mean, listen, I was obviously on Georgia. Really fortunate. Alabama has 2 All-American wide receivers, and after the first quarter, neither of them were on that field. Mechie, of course, wasn't playing to begin with. So Georgia deserved it at the end. That, you know, they made some plays, but very fluky plays on both sides. Some of those big calls were just lucky bounces both ways. Obviously, I'm glad Georgia did pull it out for us, though. Entertaining, ugly game.
So are you buying into this Stetson fella? I know early in the game you were a little underwhelmed.
No, I'm not buying into him. I mean, I will say his best throw was on a free play. He threw a Hail Mary and he caught the guy who made a great play on it, made the play when he needed to. I would have went to the backup. They didn't. They won the game. All credit to Georgia. Obviously cash those tickets, and that's what's most important.
Well, we're happy to have you guys with us. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. It helps us greatly here. We got to combat the YouTube overlords. You guys know, feed the algorithm around these ways, the faceless, nameless overlords that we work against daily to keep doing what we do and keep these lights on. But in all seriousness, you guys do that for us. Make this job a lot easier. Thank you to all of you that subscribe to the channel, that told your friends about it, that share our content. It goes an insanely long way. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Hit that thumbs up. And if you want to join here on the YouTubes, become part of the team, get those badges, the free super chats each month, the shout outs, and, you know, always prioritize your questions and get the custom emojis as well. Some fun stuff involved. Go ahead and hit that join now if you want to get in on the action. All right, let's jump into this. Jordan, we'll go by position starting at quarterback. Again, only Saturday. Tomorrow we'll do Saturday and Sunday. I already talked to our team behind the scenes. They will have ownership ready for both of those slates, which is exciting, right? We should have all the tools already in place Wednesday for both Saturday and Sunday. I'm hoping that these sites release salaries for Sunday. I'm imagining they will, but we'll kick it off with quarterback. Where are you going with okay, so the obvious answer is, yeah, I'm playing Josh Allen, right? But you, yeah. but you do have Joe Burrow, who's been spectacular. He's got a bevy of weapons and a better matchup. How close, I guess, would be a better question, are you projecting guys like Burrow and Josh Allen this week?
I have Josh Allen being outscoring Burrow by probably 5 to 6 points personally, just because of what I saw from the first matchup with the Raiders, where Burrow wasn't really pressured. They didn't exactly just give him, or they didn't play any crazy coverages. They played their base defense, and Burrow still wasn't able to really do much against the Raiders secondary. The Raiders have been playing really well on the defensive side of the ball outside of that crazy last game against the Chargers, who are a very talented offense. And with Burrow's knee injury, I just worry that he's not as mobile, and watching how much the Raiders pressured Justin Herbert, I could expect that kind of pressure coming to him in this one. Josh Allen, to me, just has that rushing upside. Like, I think Derek Carr is going to end up being the better play over Burrow.
Really? Okay.
Just from the price perspective, and I'm assuming ownership will go much. It'll be Burrow and Allen probably in the 30s, 40s, and Carr and Mac Jones will get low ownership in tournaments.
I like it. Ben, where are you at when it comes to I'll throw 4 quarterbacks out there. And yeah, New England and Buffalo have faced each other twice this season, every season, right? Divisional rivals, but they've really only faced each other once, if we want to be honest about it. Right? You can't, maybe you can, but the win game was essentially a throwaway game just based on game planning. Not to mention that Buffalo's offense looks wildly different than it did back then, where they were afraid to run the football. And now Devin Singletary is getting a ton of opportunities on the ground. So I look at it basically, both of these teams have faced each other once this year with decent conditions. How are you approaching quarterback? We don't even have to go from top to bottom. There's only 4 of them.
So it's going to be interesting because, yeah, there's only 2 games and they're both, you know, the one's in Buffalo. So we don't know. Maybe this is another game reminiscent of just the weather could be a serious factor. The other game's in Cincinnati. It's not like they're above snow. So we have to keep an eye on it. I think both totals may fall. All in all, knowing what we know now on a Tuesday, I think it's clear that Josh Allen is the best play. I'm exactly in line with Jordan. I know that the Raiders have adopted kind of a run first approach, but Derek Carr, he's going to unlock different permutations. He's in the same game, of course, with Burrow. They're 6-point dogs. They have the better total. I don't think it's inconceivable that Derek Carr does some things. I don't love that at times they go to Mariota for some of the rushing and whatnot. Obviously, Carr and Burrow, neither of them give you that. But to me, they're closer. I think the gap between Carr and Burrow is closer than the gap between Allen and Burrow, if that makes sense. To me, Josh Allen is far and away the best pending weather.
Did you see what the high temperature is going to be in Buffalo on Saturday?
No, but if it's anything like it is here right now, it's going to be freezing.
9 degrees.
That's what I'm saying. Josh Allen, listen, he played at Wyoming. Even in that crazy game, he was slinging it. His ability to throw the ball in the wind is ridiculous, but it's clearly a downgrade if it's that cold for every quarterback.
I would love to go to Wyoming.
The college or just the state?
No, not the. This would be a very brief trip, but I would love to go to Wyoming and travel there. It's a beautiful place, you know. I don't want to go up like that Wind River way where you have all the, you know what I'm talking about? No, Jeremy, don't make that face, man. You never seen Wind River with Jeremy Renner?
I've seen the Hurt Locker.
Yes, you know who he is. That's good. But I'm saying you're not okay. Watch Wind River. Phenomenal movie. Supposed to take place out in Wyoming. I don't want to go out there, but beautiful place. I'd like to see. Is the Wyoming College? Are there a lot of good players that come out of there? Or is this just like a Josh Allen thing?
It's Josh Allen.
Yeah,
they're good. They're a better team than you would think. They play. We don't need to go down this tangent, but like Laramie is in extreme altitude. It's very difficult to go in there. I bet them a lot in college basketball for that same reason. But no, it's not a dynasty program by any stretch of the imagination.
What's the last? I'm a Tulsa dog. Says Loughy wants to go to the Dutton Ranch. They only go to Wyoming as a dumping ground out in that show, Tulsa dog. Jordan, who's the last good player outside of Allen to come out of Wyoming?
Looking right now for you.
They have a guy. They had a safety.
Tayshaun Gibson.
I don't know.
Who?
Oh, okay.
Tayshaun Gibson. He played
the Jaguars, right?
Yeah, I know he is.
Yeah, he's still in the NFL this year. He started for the Bears all year.
It's Gibson, right? Like with a P.
Gibson. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not really that. It's pretty underwhelming, is what you're saying.
That's the only other player that basically has starts for this college.
Wow. Okay.
It's not. I guess. Oh, sorry. There's Jim Kick, I guess, who played in the '60s with the Dolphins, but Malcolm Floyd.
You had to go back to the '60s.
Yeah,
I thought there was another guy, but yeah, listen,
Malcolm Floyd. That's it.
It's not great.
That's amazing. And then what? Carr went to Fresno, right?
Yeah, Fresno State with Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams, yeah.
Yeah, I remember they played together because they were comparing Carr was comparing Brian Edwards to Devontae Adams. That worked out well. But I see what you guys are saying about Derek Carr. I am just curious though, like does it really matter though, the weather at this point? I honestly, I don't really care if it's not windy, if it's not in like a blizzard, if it's just cold, does it really matter that much? I mean, it's not like New England, Foxborough is not exactly a warm weather place to play football anyway. So I'm not really taking this too much into consideration.
For me, Josh Allen is probably where I'll go to just because I think in the playoffs they're going to let him run just as much as he was running towards that end of the year, getting 12 carries and certain things like that. But if you're picking between Burrow and Carr, I think the $1,500 in salary is a difference that I'm willing to just bet on Carr getting close or outscoring Burrow in most cases.
Any interest in Mac Jones, Ben?
No. I think that clearly of the two games, that's the worst one. Mac Jones doesn't present like rushing. There's really nothing I could see of why you would play him, except, when you're talking about two games, there's only 4 quarterbacks. He's going to be very low owned, but I see no reason to throw away entries on Mac Jones.
Oh God, Joe Burrow has been spectacular lately. I know it's
really
only like he's the real deal, and he's got he's got Jamar Chase. He has T. Higgins. He has Tyler Boyd. Even Osama, who we'll talk about at tight end, a horrible tight end position. He's got weapons, man. They got a good running back in Joe Mixon. I guess for me, it comes down to this, Ben, and this is why I'm asking you just to encompass everything here. Josh Allen has to be the highest owned quarterback. With Joe Burrow being so close in price point, is there that possibility that maybe his ownership is considerably lower than Josh Allen, and that makes the decision a little bit easier to get more Joe Burrow in tournaments than you would have had ownership been pretty flat across the board? Or is this just a spot where you're getting away from it?
No, I'm not going to say I'm going to get away from him because
it's
Joe
only
Burrow.
2 games.
Yeah, it's 2 games, and Joe Burrow, is going to unlock a stack that has shown time and time again it can get there against anyone.
Right.
But at the same time, I still think that Josh Allen is the overall best play, and I think that Derek Carr is the easier salary relief. And again, I think it's not unforeseen that of the 2 quarterbacks in the Raiders-Bengals game, that Derek Carr scores more points, whereas Mac Jones versus Josh Allen, to me, barring something completely ridiculous, Josh Allen is coming out ahead in that one.
Yeah, you would think so. Do you like Buffalo? 3.5 is a tough line, but I like Buffalo in this game. I'm not as sold on the Patriots as their record might suggest.
No, I mean, I really liked Buffalo against New England the first time. I really liked Buffalo against New England the second time. I think Buffalo's just a significantly better team than the Patriots at this point.
So do I. And I think, Jordan, one thing that really can't go overlooked is I know it took a while for Buffalo to pull away against the Jets, but those weird end of season spoiler divisional games, like those are wonky. We know that, right? They still ended up winning by 3 scores. When they began to, and I know that their matchups to close out the year were easier, but when they began to run the football consistently, Buffalo looks like a team that no longer is going to be falling behind in games because Josh Allen might not be having his greatest performance. And that was an issue before.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Josh Allen and the Bills take a lead early on in the game and are able to make it so the Patriots have to throw a little bit more, that's where you can see it just a run out where they end up beating the Patriots by 2 or more scores. Like, if they can stop Damian Harris and the rushing attack of the Patriots, they're going to win this game probably by 14 plus to me.
And Ben, last thing here, completely unrelated, but just thinking of divisional games, you and I and Jordan on this very show last week talked about how the Jags were uncompetitive at this point. I think that was your phrase. And I totally backed you on that. Like, there's no reason to believe otherwise. Is that one of the worst losses you've seen in recent memory, given what was on the line, who they were facing, and how they performed?
It says, not only did they lose, they got destroyed.
They got smoked. It
wasn't like somehow, some way, fluky turnovers and they lose by 3 and they're the better team. They were dismantled. I like Frank Wright. Obviously he's not going to get fired, but to lose to the Raiders at home when you're winning, you're in, it is ridiculous. But then to follow that up by losing like that to the Jaguars, this happens occasionally, but not to that extent. They were 17-point favorites.
I know.
Like, come on, man. That's pretty bad.
They were 17-point favorite. And that game was even worse than it appeared on the final score, Jordan, because that garbage time Pittman touchdown was meaningless. It was like 2 minutes left.
Oh yeah, no, it's really funny. I'm sure you as an Eagles fan appreciated Wentz folding in the big one.
It was thrilling.
I mean,
it would not be good.
But like the one thing about the Colts that game is it felt like nobody showed up. Like, yes, Wentz, I kind of expected some type of performance like that out of him, but the defense wasn't playing well. And then there are also some fluky plays where like the ball almost gets snapped over Lawrence's head. He tips it up, catches it, and just fires a dime to Marvin Jones in the corner of the end zone. Like, that
beautiful
game was
play
wild.
Too.
Yeah. Lawrence looked good that game.
Lawrence was 11 for 11 to start that game. I mean, he was impressive. Do you know at the 1 p.m. games during halftime, they all hit halftime at the same time, Jake Fromm had more rushing yards than Jonathan Taylor. That's when things are bad. So, yeah. Oh, and last, look, we got a little bit of time here, so indulge me, fellas. Ben, how about
I know what
remember
you're going to say. The QB sneak?
He's trying to sneak it out of his end zone in 3rd and 9.
I mean, again, I don't know. I don't know why Joe Judge still has a job too. I'm just calling for people's heads all over the place, but I've never seen a team truly like that. Is, if you are a Seinfeld fan, there's an episode where George is trying to get fired and he's just like doing the most ridiculous shit. I've never seen a coach be like, all right, let's see what would be the dumbest thing we could do here. They're sneaking 3rd and 9. From their goal line, not in the playbook normally.
And the funniest part, by the way, biggest violation on my part, never seen a full episode of Seinfeld.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, I've seen every episode ever of Curb Your Enthusiasm, so it doesn't really jive, right?
You would love it.
But never seen a full. I need to do it. I got made fun of by some family the other day for that. But family member who also thought Norm Macdonald wasn't funny, so I take nothing of what they say seriously. They're just very unserious people at this point. But Joe Judge last year said, Jordan, he's like, we would never not be competitive and try to win a game. We would never throw a game, referring to the Eagles sitting their starters in the second half of that game that knocked the 6 and 8 Giants out of the playoffs. No, not 6, 7 and 9. I don't know it doesn't matter. But he was clearly tanking that game. I mean, or like Ben said, he just wants to lose his job.
Did you see the report? He wants a say in who the next GM is. How could you do something?
Yeah, that's bad.
Like, this man is trying to get fired. I couldn't believe that Matt Rule and him still have jobs while Flores was let go. Not that Flores deserved to continued being the head coach of the Dolphins, but I don't think any of them should be coaches of their teams. It's embarrassing. The Giants should be embarrassed. I'm interested to see who they bring in at offensive coordinator because, Jason Garrett, I'm hoping it's Adam Gase. I hope he just goes for the trifecta of trying to get fired here.
I just hope Brian Flores lands a head coaching job. What a disgrace it was firing that guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, he never won the big game, and it sucks because teams like the Panthers and Giants are sticking with Matt Rule and Joe Judge. But I'm hoping Flores goes to the Bears. I would like to see him with Fields and just that, they have some pieces on that defense that he can make work.
Any other thoughts at quarterback for either of you guys?
To me, it's just, we'll see what ownership shakes out, weather dependent. It's not unforeseen that one of these games totals could drop by a full touchdown. If it snows, if there's crazy wind, if that's the case, you're going to have a really odd situation where upwards of you could have 75, 80% of the QB ownership coming from one of the games and the other game is just non-existent.
Jordan, anything else here?
I'll add with the Raiders and their run heaviness in recent weeks, they've also they haven't had Darren Waller. He played last week, so you could see a little bit more throwing in this one.
Yeah, and that Chargers run defense, man, they looked okay at first, and then they just completely imploded in the second half of that game. All right, let's talk running backs. Before we do, though, look, if you haven't signed up at Yahoo yet, I say this seriously. It's not even about the fact, and this you get a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up using the link in the description or the one that our producer Tyler's about to throw in the chat right now. Free month, $90 value, everything on the site from ownership projections, player projections, top stack tool, boom bust tool, lineup builder, all of our tools created by Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, top player out there. And they're great tools that people have used to win a lot of money. You'll see that when we do our Awesemo Hall of Fame segment later in the show. But one of the biggest things, and Ben, you touch on this all the time, and I don't know why people don't talk about it more often, is it's actually the site with the best pay structures, with the best, 2 extra money, even if you're min cashing, pay out 20+% of the field and everything. That gets you such a long, long way in sustaining your bankroll if you're a tournament player.
And that's the key. The truth of, we get a ton of questions in our premium Discord about I see these huge screenshots from you guys. What's the best way? The reality of it is in between those screenshots, you're just trying to break even and give yourself more and more chances. And a site like Yahoo, it gives you the opportunity to have a longer runway. You get more chances at that per the dollars that you're spending because of the structure, because of the management fees. So I can't advocate strongly enough about how good that is for GPP players, because again, you're getting a chance for $100K to first, but it's not like if you don't win it, you're going to lose money automatically, which in some of these structures, the reality is if you're not taking one of the top 0.01% spots, you're probably coming in with less money than you started with, because that's really all you're chasing.
100%. Check it out. Use the link in the description, the one that we just put in chat. When you sign up, you'll get a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. It's a $90 value right there anyway, if you were to just go onto our site and sign up. And you get free $10 when you use the link as well in site credit over at Yahoo. They got the $75,000 NBA baller tonight, $500,000 NFL wild card baller on Saturday. I mean, jump in and use all of our tools too. That's the biggest benefit. All of our tools have Yahoo built in as well. So if you're looking at ownership or the Boom Buster, the top stack tool or the projections, you can use them all for Yahoo, which is huge. So sign up, come join us, hop in our Discord when you get that free month as well. All you have to do is enter a paid contest first, and Yahoo will email us. We'll hit you up and get you set up. And if you need immediate access, you want to play, say, NBA tonight and get on this quick, if you email us at support@awesemo.com, we'll get you set up right away. We'll expedite the process. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. There's no reason not to take advantage of it. Check out Yahoo, use the link, get your free month of Awesemo, and use all those tools to win some money. All right, let's keep going. Running back. Jordan, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, Damian Harris, Devin Singletary. Those are your four starters on each team. Of course, we'll get into the Ramondre Stevensons and everything. But really, none of these teams outside of New England to an extent, and I don't necessarily know what it's going to look like in the postseason, given how good Damian Harris has played when he's getting a full workload. Three of the four teams, including Buffalo now, have clear lead back situations.
Yeah, and I mean, as I stated about how I feel between Carr and Burrow, Joe Mixon to me is the guy that I'm obviously most intrigued with. He's best running back on the slate, and I think that bye week or that resting week this past weekend is going to help him a lot because he hasn't seen 20 carries since week 12. And when he played the Raiders the first time, he got 30 carries for 123 and 2 TDs. I think we're going to see them try to use that type of workload, especially with Burrow's knee, because that's still a questionable thing because he said he could have returned to take the knee, but there's just no point of risking it. Mixon to me against the Raiders, Eckler was running really well. The Chargers just went really past that because of the game script. And then looking at Josh Jacobs, they have been really run heavy lately. I think they'll be a little bit more pass happy. So not too sure I'll get to Jacobs that much.
Yeah, that's one spot where I am a little bit, I have some reservations there. I'll tell you, Ben, 5 straight weeks, you know where I'm going. Straight back to Devin Singletary. I really don't see any reason not to at this point. This isn't to say I don't like Mixon or anybody else here. That's not what I'm saying. But New England's run defense is not great. I mean, they've given up big games to opposing run games. And I know that, PFF grades them out pretty well and they're not bottom of the league, but that is one spot that teams have been able to hit them this year. And if Singletary is going to come in and get another big workload, and if he's not involved in the pass or in the run game, they'll get him more involved in the passing game as they did against New England back in week 16, where he had 6 targets. I'll go back to the well here once again. What are you doing at the top of top 4 guys?
Yeah. I mean, again, we're talking about a 2-game slate. So a guy like Singletary, raw points, even if he doesn't have that great a game, he could be very, very important at a position that's clearly pretty thin. Workload is there. It doesn't seem like he can be phased out. I just like the spot for him. Obviously, Mixon, he's going to be extremely popular. He should be. Even if it snows there, it shouldn't affect Mixon too much. Let's just give him the ball, maybe even more in some regards. I guess the question, though, because to me, it's pretty simple to say, I like Mixon, I like Singletary, and then Jacobs and Harris are solid in their own right. It's just like, how low can we go? Are we going to have to reach for these guys that are obviously second or third in the pecking order, or kind of only drawing to a specific narrative? Because, with only 4 teams, we don't have a ton of options.
No. And even like a Jalen Richard, Josh Jacobs has been involved so much more in the passing game than he was in the past. That's tough. The one guy I wrote down, and it's not that I feel good about this, Jordan, but one guy that I did write down that might be worth considering just based on the fact that he might end up seeing 5-6 targets if they fall behind early to Buffalo is Brandon Bolden. It's not exciting. He's not minimum salary, but I think he'll be very low owned. It's hard down here. There isn't a lot. You're probably going to be looking mostly for value at like wide receivers for the Raiders, but I do think Bolden is one of those guys that does he see an 11-yard touchdown reception that puts him in the spot to be in the optimal. And that's what we have to look at. Like, which of these cheap guys can score on a limited amount of opportunity? I think Bolden's one of those guys. It's ugly outside of that, though.
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely like the Bolden call just because of the way I expect that game to go. Bolden has been their best receiving back since James White has gone out. And when he gets in, he does get work towards the red zone. So, of course, that is. I think you could also, if you don't want to play Josh Jacobs at all, I know he's premier as well, or gets a ton of touches and is their workhorse, but Peyton Barber has spelled him and gotten 5+ carries in the last 3 weeks. I don't think running back's the position I'm going to go cheap. I think I'm just going to stick to the top mainly. But if you do go down, I think Bolden and Barber are the two best options.
Ben, you're the one that talked about it in terms of some of these cheap guys and having to look at it. Are there any that make any sense?
I don't think so. And it's because there's no one that I've identified. Some teams, even really good teams, they have a straight pass catching back, like the McKissicks of the world. And it's like, okay, if the game script evolves, this guy can come. Most of these backs catch the ball. Like each one of the teams, they have a running back that if they fall behind, they're not really going to be phased out. I think the Patriots would be the one team you don't really have that with Stevenson and Harris. So maybe Bolden, but Cincinnati does. Certainly Singletary can catch the ball, and Josh Jacobs absolutely has shown this year he can do it if needed. So I think that when you're talking about wide receivers, there's just random guys that can always catch one long pass and get there. For running backs, it's a little different. I think that you're looking at like a 1x return on most of these guys. I don't see any upside for the cheapies.
Neither do I. It's Bolden for me, and that's just in the event that they do fall behind. 5 or 6 targets could be in play, but that's it. So it's tough. It's really ugly there, and I think we'll start looking at wide receiver to see what we can find there. Let's go ahead and do that, by the way. Hit that thumbs up, too, if you haven't done so. We got almost 200 people watching for a 2-game Saturday slate, and we're doing this on Tuesday. So you guys are great and appreciate you hanging with us because, well, football never sleeps, man. Not at Awesemo. At wide receiver, you've got Jamar Chase up top, Stephon Diggs. Those are your two like elite level players this week, Jordan. Which one of those guys do you like more? And how much do you think early on, I get it, that you're going to have of both of them?
Oh, yeah, no, I would say I lean Diggs over Chase slightly. Like, I have no problem with Jamar Chase because he's just a slate breaker, catches slants and goes all like the whole distance. The one thing against the Raiders that he won't get often is that cover 1, cover 0 coverage, which he has taken advantage of mostly. Like KC, Baltimore, both of those teams rank in the top 5 of playing cover 1, while the Raiders are in the mid-teens and play heavy cover 3. So out of the two, Diggs is where I lean just because I think Allen locks onto him at certain times. And against New England in this type of game, that's who he will be targeting heavily. We saw it in week 16. He got 13 targets, which is, I think, the 3rd highest targets he had this year. And he got 7 for 85 in a touchdown.
Yeah. Jamar Chase is so good, though. It's I mean, no. I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I'm just saying, like, from a ceiling perspective, Jamar Chase has been the guy with the higher ceiling this year, and he plays with a lot of other good wide receivers too. It's remarkable some of the type of games that you've seen out of Jamar Chase. His target share has kind of fluctuated, but in these big games against Baltimore, against Kansas City, granted, they only played him limited amount of snaps against Cleveland in week 18 to get him that record, which, should have an asterisk there. But I love both of these guys, Ben. I mean, they're both in, I wouldn't say ideal spots, but they're two elite receivers that in the playoffs, you have to imagine are going to see a significant target share.
No doubt about it. I will say, and listen, I want to be clear. When Jamar Chase has like 8 touchdowns, I don't want to hear the like, what is this guy talking about? But on a 2-game slate, Jamar Chase has been more relevant in like 14-game slates because when he explodes, his points are so high that he's always in the optimal. In a 2-game slate, it doesn't matter if Jamar Chase gets 25 or 55 because he's going to be in the optimal regardless with raw points. So his upside to me isn't that important in the situation. And the guy's floor is actually not that good for an elite receiver. So in a situation like this, if he's extremely popular, and I don't know why he wouldn't be, I would rather try to fade him than a guy like Diggs. I think that Jamar Chase, some of that upside, it just doesn't matter on a 2-game slate. You're going to be playing in a pool of all the Jamar Chase teams, whether he has 30, 40, 50, 60. Again, it doesn't change on a 2-game slate.
Fair points from both of you. Then Ben, what are you doing in a spot like that with that kind of reasoning with the T. Higgins and a Tyler Boyd, two guys who might not be, as impressive throughout the season, but have both had quality. I mean, listen, T. Higgins is an 1,100-yard receiver, and he played 14 games this year. He had a huge season. He came on insanely strong of late towards the end of the year. And then Tyler Boyd's price point is down pretty considerably. He was an 800-yard guy this year with 5 scores and a couple big games as well. So it's not always Jamar Chase.
Not at all. You can obviously go to those guys, or if there's a situation where you just say, you know what, I'm going to predict awful weather in Cincinnati, or I'm just going to get away from the passing attack, you fade them all. But clearly you have one-offs on the same team. T. Higgins on a lot of other teams would be the clear number 1 receiver.
What about you when it comes to the rest of these receivers for Cincinnati, Jordan?
For me, T. Higgins actually ranks as the number 1 for Cincinnati for me, just because when teams play cover 3, because I just pulled up the data on it, T. Higgins actually has the same amount of targets, more receptions, and the same amount of air yards as Jamar Chase in these games. The Raiders, that's what they do. That's who they've been all year. I think T. Higgins can outscore Jamar Chase in most of these games, especially against the Raiders. The first time around, I think T. Higgins was more targeted, if I'm not mistaken. Chase had 3 for 32 and a touchdown, while Boyd had 6 for 49. None of these guys really popped against the Raiders when they first played, even though they scored 32 points.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Mixon had that big game too. I think he scored twice, right? So there is that, but there's I guess too, when you look at Las Vegas, you have Hunter Renfrow, Jordan, obviously somebody that, even though the Chargers really did what they could to take him out of that game, he still found the end zone twice. Didn't do anything otherwise, 13 total yards. But I'm telling you right now, you have to be looking at somebody like Zay Jones at this point. Very high target share over the last 1+ months. Ever since the disaster that we saw with God, I can't remember his name right now. What the hell was his name?
Henry
what the hell
Ruggs.
was the What's that?
Ruggs.
Thank you, Henry Ruggs. Yeah, the third.
Yeah.
With Ruggs and Brian Edwards has been pretty infrequently involved. I mean, Zay Jones is in a spot where if he pulls another 7 to 9 targets and he's getting red zone targets, he's viable. Even Brian Edwards, it's gross, but Brian Edwards is insanely cheap. And even it's weird on these 2-game slates, because we've seen Vegas on a couple short slates this year. For some reason, these kind of secondary options for the Raiders don't get a lot of love, but even and I know Darren Waller's back, so I get that. You guys don't need to tell me that Waller's back, understandably so. But I still think Zay Jones is one of those guys at his price point that we have to be giving some attention to.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on the Zay Jones thing. And the thing about Zay Jones that has been really good is he gets the short targets too. For DraftKings, he's had 5 receptions or more in every game since week 12, except for the 15 to 17 point loss against the Washington. That's numbers that is consistency, and he's priced at 4K, which allows some salary relief. And the only thing that I am concerned with is ownership, because I want to see how owned Gabe Davis is. DraftKings dropped his price coming off of a 14 target game. Not too certain why they did that, but he's 3,900, and then you got some of the cheaper like Aguilar and Edwards and Jackson who can all make the big play. It's just they're not going to get more than 3 or 4 targets.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Deshaun Jackson was entirely uninvolved last week. Played only 10% of snaps. But yeah, Ben and Jordan mentioned it. Well, first of all, we have to see if Emmanuel Sanders is going to play. I do think that's significant. I don't think that makes Gabriel Davis irrelevant because Sanders has kind of been, fading into obscurity lately anyway. But Davis was targeted 14 times in week 18. He's clearly involved. And if you remember in that game, that win game against the Patriots, Gabe Davis had that one up the seam touchdown. And then Allen targeted him again on the same one. He almost had 2 touchdowns there. So kind of an interesting play here. What do you make of all of these cheaper wide receivers? Because you already said you don't see value at running back.
Yeah, this is where you got to go. It's not easy, but these guys have opportunities. I think anyone, Zay Jones, certainly Davis, but even guys that have struggled like Edwards for the Raiders, he's going to have opportunities. They may be fleeting, they may be sporadic, but he could contribute, certainly find the end zone. And then we'll have to see, personnel wise, I don't think you can really get them, but I swear to God that Isaiah McKenzie every week on Red Zone, they go to the Bills and he scores, but then you look and he barely plays. But I feel like that guy low key has 1 million touchdowns this year. Obviously that's not the case.
He has one.
Yeah. I mean, don't you remember? Oh, Isaiah McKenzie on a reverse every week. It's
all
him.
the time. I remember that vividly. And I also remember showdown slates where he'd always find a way on that 1 for 12 or something. Or like you said, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But these are the guys. I mean, these price points are very appealing relative to the running backs. So I will take my chances down here. You're going to see a lot of bad performances, but there will be at least a guy or two, in the 3 or 4K range at wide receiver that certainly get involved this week.
Where are you at on the New England receivers? The Myers, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar?
Yeah, again, I think they have to be considered. I don't like the spot by any stretch, but that doesn't, not liking the spot on a 2-game slate doesn't really matter. It's not like a larger slate. So someone like Bourne and Myers, particularly if you think Singletary and the Bills have success, Mac Jones is going to have to try to make plays. And Jacoby Myers, the knock on him is he doesn't score. But as we've talked about a lot, there's nothing that would prevent him from scoring at a normal rate. It's just bad variance. He's a tall red zone target receiver. He can obviously score, and he's starting to do that a little more. But at flat 5, I think that's the weird gap. It's a $1,200 gap between him and Higgins.
Where else are you at, Jordan, on wide receivers? Anyone we haven't touched on yet?
I like Bourne a lot. And I guess, the big play with Nelson Aguilar, if the Patriots are going to possibly push the ball downfield. He's had some deep targets this year, but the receiver position, it feels like there's Jacoby Myers, Tyler Boyd, Cole Beasley, Zay Jones. All these guys seem to have a lot of high floors for just targets and receptions, which is just an interesting way to build on this slate.
Ben, are you betting the Africa Cup of Nations?
So Comoros, which most people don't even know is a country, has gotten into the African Cup of Nations for the first time. And I was excited to see them. I have not bet the games. I saw the Senegal game yesterday. It's just a matter of time, though.
How do you compartmentalize all this stuff?
What does that mean? I compartmentalize it by not knowing what that compartmentalize means.
No, I mean, you do a lot of sports, right? And you bet on a lot of sports that you don't talk about doing. You don't do content on a lot of that stuff. You know what I mean?
For the Comoros soccer team, no.
Right, it just mean you have an odd memory. You're able to compartmentalize stuff. You can put Africa Cup of Nations back here. You can put, you're very good at. I mean, you're the same guy that knows the capital to every country in the world. It's interesting Comoros. How your brain works.
That's true.
Yeah,
I mean, some of it's a math problem. Some sports, I know in depth. The Africa Cup of Nations, do I know it in depth? Obviously not. Have I seen enough where there are certain games that I think that you can make a position on? Yeah, definitely.
Who was the team that hadn't scored a goal in 12 years?
Well, that's in
I know
San Marino.
Yeah. What was the stat?
They got problems. Yeah. I mean, they don't. I mean, it's their best player is like a mailman. That's not a joke. They don't.
True, right?
Yeah, they don't. And they're poor. They have to play in the World Cup qualifiers against they draw Belgium, and it's well, this is just not fair.
I just remember we were in Times Square and I met you at the hotel and you're like, all right, let me get this bet in. I was like, who are you betting against?
Yeah, they're usually getting like 7-8 goals.
Yeah.
Which,
All right. Well, let me tell you if you got any cup of
I'll let you know.
Action.
I'll let you know.
Tight ends. Oh, wait, real quick. Let me induct a couple people. Do we have an updated Hall of Fame, Tyler? We should, right? Yeah, we do. Okay. We took all our Millie makers off, which is disappointing, but it makes sense. We had them up there for a year. There was also somebody in our Discord. Adam mentioned to me that there was somebody in our Discord that didn't have the Awesemo avatar, but was in the Awesemo Discord that won the Millie on Sunday, one of the Millies on Sunday. So that's awesome. Wish we could have found that. Wish he was rocking the avatar, but that's cool. If you haven't done so yet, download the avatar at awesemo.com/avatar. And when you win, place top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Well, we'll tweet. We will give you a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. All you got to do is tweet us at Awesemo HOF. Of course, include Jordan, Ben, myself. We like to see all that stuff when you end up taking that win down, and catch some love on Twitter. Get inducted here, the shout out and the free month. It's a win-win-win around here. Just like it's Jay, third place, $4,000 in the fadeaway. Not first, but I had a chance. Thank you, Awesemo. That's a big one right there. And then you got EJ. Eric King Damon. Thanks, guys, for your great work and help navigating DFS. Kind of second place. Thanks again. And by the way, it doesn't matter how much you win. Doesn't matter if you're entering with a nickel or a dime. If it's top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, which this isn't. But like I said, we'll still shout you out if you are proud of the win. Making the most out of $37. Tennis is back $1,000. Sweet, man. Yeah, we got tennis action as well. We got tennis content, projections, all that good stuff. Our boy Ship My Money, $70K in the afternoon only rush, second place, taking down another one. Fella's been on a heater. And then speaking of mega heater, Jordan Lockhart dipping his toes into the PGA space, $20,000 first place, 67K signature hole. Congrats to Jordan as well. And to all of you guys, welcome to the Hall of Fame. And if you've already been here, welcome back. Use that avatar. Tweet us at AwesemoHOF and get up on here and get some love. Get that free month as well. All right, let's do it. Tight ends, Jordan, sorry. Really ugly position. By my estimation, you have like maybe 4 guys that are very viable, and then kind of 1 or 2 other guys that you're hoping for an end zone target, and that's it.
I mean, I don't hate this position as much as it seems like you do, and it's because of just the touchdown upside with them as well. But like Cjo Uzomah against the Raiders are one of the worst teams against tight ends, and then with Darren Waller, like his price is $5,700, and in his first game back, he got 9 targets. Like, I know he's still banged up and he may not be 100%, but on this type of slate, his price is under $6K and just well worth it against Cincinnati.
No, I don't hate those guys at all. Like I mentioned Usama earlier in the show. I actually think he's a very good play. You make good points on Darren Waller too. I mean, he was clearly rusty, did not look good, but 9 targets, you'll take it. Clearly got involved early and often in that one, despite an underwhelming game. It's guys like Dawson Knox and Hunter Henry that drive me nuts, Ben, because like Knox absolutely needs to score. If Knox doesn't score at that price point, you are pretty much locking in an underwhelming game. And you can say the exact same thing for Hunter Henry, right?
No, yeah. I mean, Dawson Knox has 9 touchdowns this year. And he's missed some. It's pretty crazy how much he's relied on that. And to see him, I'm not saying it's wrong, but like him and Waller to me shouldn't be that close in price point. I understand why they are. I just, more often than not, when Dawson Knox has a big game, it's to the detriment of me and my lineups, because I'm not going to probably pay that. I'd rather go way down or just go and get Waller.
And Dawson Knox has 1 game above 8 fantasy points in games where he hasn't scored this year. But it's probably a little unfair for me to say that, because most of these tight ends need to score. I guess the difference is, Ben, at this point, and maybe you'll have a different opinion. How much different really at this point is CJ Uzomah and Dawson Knox?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Dawson Knox also, it's a tale of almost 3 different seasons. He was 3K range for 4 games. Then he was in the 4K range for 6 games, and then he was in the 5K range for 5 games. So like the quote unquote Dawson Knox needs to fall in the end zone, that works a lot better when he's 3,600. Like even if he scores here, it's not a guarantee that he provides you a ton of value. Obviously, it's going to help immensely, but he's a significant tag relative to this range. And I think you're spot on. CJ was almost $1,600 less, and that's a giant gap.
Right. And they both have a bunch of weapons. It's not like, it's not like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Boyd aren't comparable to what Josh Allen has in Buffalo. Like, yeah, maybe Beasley's not as sexy of a play, or Gabe Davis or Emmanuel Sanders if he's out there, obviously Stephon Diggs, but they still have a lot of guys that they can move the ball to. So from a target share standpoint, I don't anticipate Knox being far more involved. The truth is, Jordan, like if I'm probably just paying up for Waller if I'm going above 5K. Now we're just waiting on what ownership looks like to see how chalky he is.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the tight end position this week, you like flexing it is where I might even lean, just because the receivers, yes, they have some safe floors over there, but these guys have a higher ability to score touchdowns. Like Hunter Henry and Dawson Knox. Like I think if the Bills and Patriots get in the red zone, we could see some pretty high usage from both of them. Waller obviously is Waller, like he's capable of doing it. And with this position, the only annoyance is like Jonnu Smith and Foster Moreau. Not that they're going to take much away from them. These two guys can be utilized on some sneaky plays where like they had a play action. Foster Moreau leaks out of the backfield against the Chargers wide open, just ends up getting 50 receiving yards in that game. Like those types of plays can happen for both of these guys.
I guess the last question for both of you fellas is there anybody else? Like Moreau played 61% of snaps. He had a season high 41-yard or 44-yard reception, but he's not going to be that involved going forward, especially once Waller gets worked in more. And then like a Jonnu Smith, do you hope that he gets into the end zone, Ben? Is there anybody else here?
I don't think so. To me, I would rather double up on 2 tight ends who are both like real players than take a punt to separate. You can do things with lineup construction, whether you leave money on the table or just play a weird combination rather than being like, I need to find this guy at the stone min to be different on a 2-game slate. I think that's an off-base idea.
For sure. We got free content too today. NBA player rankings, totally free. PGA top golfers, NHL player projections, everything. All of that's free over at Awesemo. But if you were looking to sign up and get access to everything that we have on the site, from not just football, but basketball, hockey, PGA is back, esports, UFC, you name it, tennis, everything. Use the promo code NFL Strategy Show, all one word, all caps. Get you 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That's literally everything on the site. All these tools built by Awesemo himself. So check it out if you'd like to do that. Or if you want to come in and do it a little differently, NFL Express Pass is $395 a week. It's a really, really good value, but I would suggest waiting until you get closer. Like I would do it on Saturday, right? Because if you do it on Saturday, then you're going to get a full week of it for $395, because all of our showdown tools, the ownership, the top plays tool, that when you ask someone like Neil Orfield, what have you done to win so much in showdown? He's like, I use that tool. I use the boom bust tool, and I use the top plays tool, which gives you, well, you'll see it. But for $395, you get all the showdown content, all of those tools, including a lot of other main slate stuff. But I would suggest doing it on Saturday. So then you get a full week, and you get some not wild card, but then you get some divisional rounds games as well. And there's going to be huge showdown slates that you can take advantage of. So NFL Strategy Show, 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum, or wait a couple days, get in on the Express Pass, $395 a week if you're looking to go a little bit lighter for just football. All right. We'll wrap it up with this, fellas. There's really not much here but defenses, and there's only 4 of them: Bills, Bengals, Patriots, Raiders. Not a whole lot to talk about at this point. Is this been just kind of this is what I did on the afternoon slate. I just went as low as I could to the Dolphins, thinking, you know what? Okay, Dolphins at home, Patriots. Ended up having 2 defensive touchdowns, and sometimes you just get lucky.
Yeah, basically every time with defense is just about
luck. You just have to get lucky.
You just have to get lucky. It doesn't matter. There's probably going to be weather and snow and things like that. I truly don't care who I play. I would play all four of these defenses confidently, even against my own quarterback if I have to.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I think like Buffalo's probably the best on paper, but could be Cincy, could be New England, could be. It doesn't really matter, Jordan.
Yeah, no, I agree. Defenses and 2-game slates aren't like the touchdown's going to probably make or break if you come in first or not, but I don't think it's detrimental to your lineup if you play the Patriots and they only get you 3.
And like Ben said too, playing guys against your defense, this is not something you want to avoid.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, full out onslaught against them.
It can work. It's not recommended, but it still can work because if your defense scores,
yeah,
you got to score once or twice,
right? Or if all the defenses just aren't good, right? Like if all the defenses finish with 1 or 3 fantasy points, then it makes no difference either, and you're getting to the cheapest one. But it shouldn't be that hard to avoid it because, like the Bengals, Patriots, and Raiders are $400 separated from each other, so you're probably going to find a way to get away from doing that. But anyway, that'll do it for us. Follow Jordan at Jordan Vanek DFS, Ben at Jazzraz DFS. You got some dude, it's crazy. PJ ends, and then you're doing content 2 days later for it. You got more of that coming down the pike today?
1:00 Eastern, me and Jason Roslin, PJ Strategy Show on this very same channel. And I'm going to pass it back to you. We had a super chat about when is the follow-up best ball show? Do we have a date for that yet, or is it just stay tuned?
No, but James and I'm trying to get some mock drafts, and we didn't have it set up. There was some miscommunication with the overlays and everything and screen sharing for all that. So we're going to do it this week. Stay tuned. I would definitely like to get into some of those as well. It's a lot of fun. Jordan, what do you got coming up? No more college football.
No more college football. It's a sad day as an Alabama fan, but Saturday we're going to be breaking down the live before lock, and we've got Sakova with me and I believe someone else, but we got some great shows up coming, and I'm excited for playoff football. These games actually mean something.
Yes, they do. And obviously, NBA Deeper Dive live before lock tonight. Remember, free NBA player rankings over at Awesemo. So hang with us. So much coming up here on the channel, as it always is, over at the Awesemo Odds channel, too. You'll want to check that out for everything we got going on there coming up for the NFL playoffs. We'll catch you back here very shortly, fellas. Thanks, as always, for hanging out with us. Peace.